Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Turning Point podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Lara, and I am joined here by Lewin once again. How are we doing, my friend?
I'm going good, thank you. Today's been a good day.
Has it? Oh, that's good. What, have you been up to anything interesting today, or has it just been a good day all round?
It's just been a good day all round.
That's good. That's good. I just fucking played video games all day. That's pretty much all I did.
Same.
Yeah. Then I ordered a burger for dinner. It was real good.
Nice, I had noodles.
Jacob, you are joining us for this Last of Us
The
discussion.
man who needs no introduction because we didn't give him one.
Yeah,
No.
well, I was working on that. We were getting to that point, and then he talked before that happened, so...
You spoke to him
Someone asked me a
directly.
question. I was like, "I'll start up. I won't say
Yeah,
a damn thing until they introduce me." And then Laura, you were like, "Oh yeah, you."
Well, I
did
mean, I
this.
guess
You
that
want them?"
technically
So I'm like,
counts. That's a very low-key introduction. Very, low-key, oh yeah, you know about that, and then you're like, oh yeah, and then it's like, yep, cool. No, but of course you're on... you're back. You're our what did I call you
Really,
last episode?
Was it the unofficial Naughty Dog expert or something?
He is like the Naughty Dog aficionado.
Yeah, you're like our podcast resident Naughty Dog expert.
Yeah.
I like other things too, you know.
Yeah, no, but like you're the Naughty Dog expert, you know.
Yeah.
Like Lewin knows more about Naughty Dog shit than I do. Like all I know is Naughty Dog make video games, and that they did Uncharted and The Last of Us and stuff.
Don't take it personally, Jacob. We've been doing this podcast for 3 seasons now. We're just characters of where we started.
What have we been up to? What's going on? What's happening? We'll start with you, Lewin. What have you been up to?
I'm just gonna go with watching the DC Arrowverse shows.
Why the fuck are you doing that to yourself?
Because I was curious. You see, I've had a long-running narrative that I have watched 4 seasons of Arrow. I truly believed it until I watched half a season of Arrow, and I'm like, I haven't fucking seen this show at all. Why do I think I have?
Interesting.
Yeah, I tricked myself into thinking I'd watched a lot of a show when I had not. And quite honestly,
Arrow's a fucking banger show, though.
up to where I'm up to, yes. I have just finished season 3.
Oh yeah,
Which
okay,
is-
so you're reaching the bad part now.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
kind of
season 4
starts
is
to
the bad
fall
one.
apart in the last 5 episodes of season 3. I don't...
It gets a bit silly, but that's not too bad though. Season 4 is the weakest part of the show. So much so that there was a bit of a course correction in season 5.
So I've heard. And, like...
Yeah.
But
also, you can't kind of skip season 4 either, because a lot of important like story beats happen for the story beats of characters in that show. So it's kind of like a thing of like, fuck, you gotta watch like the bad season of Arrow, but then you need it for context for other things that are gonna come later on.
See, I had some aha moments, like John Barrowman appearing as early as episode 3, and I was like, fuck yeah, it's John Barrowman. Even with current day standards of John Barrowman. I didn't realize Barry Allen first showed up in Arrow.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Yeah.
He shows up in because those episodes were meant to be the backdoor pilot to the Flash,
And they work
which obviously you know
successfully,
because
apparently.
at the end he gets struck by the lightning.
Yeah, so I got to midway through season 2, and it starts getting a bit confusing there because, like, obviously they've not, outside of the Mirakuru soldiers, they've not versed any metahumans, and Mirakuru soldiers aren't even metahumans. But one moment is when the crossover between the Flash and Arrow happens. I hadn't seen any of the Flash at this point, so Barry shows up.
Oh, just to correct you there,
Are Mirakuru metahumans?
would that be actually no? I don't think that would be a crossover. I do know that Barry Allen as the Flash, I'm pretty sure, does appear later.
Yeah, no,
on.
in season 2
But-
of Arrow and season 1 of Flash, it is counted as the first official crossover.
Is that? Oh shit, man! I don't remember because I remember season 3 and season 1 being the crossover.
Oh no, sorry, yeah, you're right, sorry, yes.
Yeah. Barry Allen I mean, oh, you said you watched the last 5 episodes of that, didn't you? Because he turns up again at the end when Oliver's like League of Assassins Oliver
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure he turns up on Arrow. Sorry, not. I'm pretty sure Oliver turns up
He
on an
does.
episode of The Flash as League of Assassins Arrow. It's fucking weird. Imagine if you only ever watched The Flash and suddenly Oliver Queen's dressed up in like all this League of Assassins.
So
Yeah.
it's actually a weird end point where, like, okay, so he shows up in the Arrow when Oliver's still going by, I think, the Hood.
The Hood. Yeah. He's the Hood for the first 2.5 seasons.
Yeah, and then Felicity shows up quite a lot in Flash season 1, but she shows up near the end of season 1, and Barry's like, Barry's trying to get as much help as he can to go against Wells, and when Joe's like, can you get Oliver, Barry's just like, nah, he's in some place called Nana Bala, whatever the fuck the name of the League of Assassins place is. So
Yeah.
you know that season 3 is happening then, and then Oliver shows up again at the end of season 1. It's like, I'm the Green Arrow now. And I'm like, oh, okay, you've got the full title now.
Yeah.
It was the main thing that caught me off guard was the first crossover between Flash and Arrow, because I was only watching for Arrow at that point. Barry Allen comes in as the Flash, and they go to help the Arrow crew goes to help him out. And they're like, man, everything's so difficult now with all the metahumans about. I'm like, there has literally never been a fucking metahuman in this show. What are you on about?
Yeah. I mean, back when it was airing, because obviously it was so much simpler back then. Like, it was meant to be, like, you were meant to be watching both shows.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like, the metahumans do start showing up in Arrow as well, eventually. But they kind of keep the metahuman presence in Arrow to a minimum, because it's not that type of show. But, yeah, it's interesting where you're up to, because you've just essentially gone through the Batman season. Because, like, the one big criticism of Arrow as a show is the fact that they literally just take all these Batman storylines and just give them to Green Arrow instead for some reason.
I did not think they were serious. I thought the title of the Suicide Squad episode was a cheeky little reference. No.
Harley Quinn's in that episode too, by the way.
Yeah, it's just a full-on actual reference. It's the full-on Suicide Squad. I'm like, why?
But it's also a bunch of, like, D-list Suicide Squad characters, like not even like the main Suicide Squad characters. But yeah, Harley Quinn, I think that's the episode that has Harley Quinn in it.
She's mentioned and you can hear her from memory.
Yeah, she's in a cell, and like, I think you can see like her silhouette, and she says she has a couple of lines of dialogue, which I do believe was voiced by Tara Strong. I do believe.
Cool.
But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because it was back in the day when there was the rules that they couldn't use Batman or Batman related characters on the TV shows. And then also there was the separate deal with Fox for Gotham as well. So yeah, like Harley Quinn's was off limits. So they could put a character in a cell that is meant to be Harley Quinn, but like, you know, it's not. But she could never actually be in the show.
Yeah.
Because it was a mess. I mean, it's the reason why Gotham never had Harley Quinn either. They had Echo instead, who is just Harley Quinn, but isn't referred to as Harley Quinn. Which is the irony when Joker... it's the same as the Joker in that show. Like, you have Jeremiah Valeska and you have Jerome Valeska, but they're the Joker, you know?
Yeah.
But it's actually funny because when Echo dies in the Gotham finale, like the lead up to the finale, when Echo dies, oh no, it is in the finale actually. When Echo dies, Joker's like, "Oh, there'll never be another like you," and they're like, "Oh yeah, just give it a couple of years. There will be. There'll be another. There'll be Harley Quinn." But yeah, no, I think you're at a really interesting point in the show too.
Yeah. So I'm taking not a break. I'm currently watching The Flash. I finished season 1.
I think that's smart.
Season 2, so that I can get the crossovers as they happen.
Yeah, season 1 and 2 of The Flash are actually really good. Like
I have
will
my
say they're
on and
really
off
good.
moments with season 1 because it doesn't really as a continuous binge show, it doesn't work. It's very much you were meant to watch this weekly.
Yeah, there's a lot of filler too.
Yeah.
But it's the same with Arrow. Arrow has
It's
a lot of filler
CW
as well.
thing. It's
But yeah, like that's an issue. You're up to the bad season though. And the reason why is because they really kind of make Oliver, not Oliver, but they make the Green Arrow persona a much weaker character. So much so that in the first episode of season 5, you just have this literally opens with this epic fucking, and like, I mean, you've been watching Arrow. The fight scenes are really well done for the most part. Like they're really well choreographed, and like they're always epic. You've got that epic Arrow music playing, and the shaky cam, like all fucking Oliver just mowing down guys, just fucking. It's really good stuff. And then season 4, they kind of toned back so much on Green Arrow as a character. That in season 5, when all that criticism was like, oh fuck, season 4 shit, like he only shoots like 2 arrows the entire season. I was fucking like, what is it? Why is he going up against like this guy that has magic powers? Like, oh, like, so then they're like, okay, fair enough. You know, season 4 wasn't it. Season 5, they straight go in straight away. First episode, first scene. You have a really hardcore, like, fucking action choreographed sequence, and Oliver's being, like, fucking brutal again. And it's just like, oh my god, this is great. This is like season 1 Arrow, when Oliver was just fucking killing people.
Before he took up his Batman or killing role.
Yeah, but, like, they did backtrack quite a bit, because the reception to season 4 at the time was very negative, so they're like, okay, we'll circle back, and then yeah, once the universe grows and grows to the point, the thing about the crossovers is you can watch in isolation, a lot of them, because they're usually like, yes, there's like one episode across all the shows, but they're usually quite isolated in terms of the story.
I've noticed
like,
that with the Flash one so far.
So the next crossover you're going to get is actually going to be the backdoor pilot to Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes.
So that'll be the next. That's the season 4 crossover, and I believe, oh yeah, that is a crossover between Arrow and Flash, because Supergirl hadn't come to the CW by that point. So there is a crossover with the Flash and Supergirl in season 1 of Supergirl, but that's towards the end. Yeah, I stopped watching The Flash after season 3, because I was just like, it's literally the same plot every season, and I'm just like, this is fucking shit. I'm just not watching this anymore. Yeah, fair enough. What about you, Jacob? What have you been up to? Sorry, we just talked about Arrow for like fucking 20 minutes. What have you been up to lately?
Just catching up on some more games and stuff. So I've been trying to get through the Dead Space remake. I just started the Resident Evil 4 remake yesterday. No, sorry, that's a lie. Friday.
Yeah.
I'm nearing the end of RE4.
And obviously for the purpose of not just this video, but for my nice warm heart for Last of Us, I watched all of the episodes of the show, and as they came out, and I went to my mum and dad's house yesterday, and we watched pretty much all of it all again. And after the last episode aired, I was like, you know what? Just for comparison's sake, I'll go back and I'll do the first game on Grounded. Just both, one, needed to get through Grounded so I can get the rest of the points that I needed to unlock all of the bonus extras. And I was like, yeah, well, I won't skip the cutscenes so I can have a nice comparison in my mind, side by side, so I can compare the show and the game. And yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm keen to play Resident Evil 4. But like I was saying prior to recording, like I've just got other stuff to play right now. It's not like, plus it's like $85 on Steam, so I'll just wait. I'll play it soon at some point. I've never played the original, so, well, okay, that's a lie. I have played a bit of it. I have it on PS2, but I never played it. I never played enough of it. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of just played that first little bit in the village. I think the last thing I actually remember doing is there was a bit where there was like a boulder fallen down a hill or some shit like in Indiana Jones. It was like that, and I had to like run
Level,
in
man.
front of the boulder.
Classic.
That's the last thing I remember doing. I think I played more after that. I just don't remember what happens after that. So I'm keen to jump into the remake and kind of play that. Plus, like, I've really been enjoying all the modern Resident Evil games anyway. Kind of gone on a bit of a journey with Resident Evil where I was like, I want to play through all of the games. Then I started playing some of the games, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm just a Jill Valentine fan. I'm not really a fan of this. And now I'm kind of just like, oh, you know what? I just like the modern Resident Evil games. I'm pretty happy with those.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what I think when I've put way more hours into Resident Evil 4 Remake, because I've only played the first few chapters. And it's really good so far, but I want to be like, I want to see how this compares to the original, because the original Resident Evil 4 is like, I'm not going to be give any hot takes on Resident Evil 4. But Resident Evil 4 is one of my all-time favorite games, and it's by far my favorite Resident Evil. So now the balls in this new remake's court to be like, impress me, hold up to these standards, please, and don't be disappointing.
See,
I'm not usually the type of person who like gets disappointed at all, and I don't think Resident Evil 4 Remake will disappoint me as I keep playing. But like I said with the DC stuff coming out, I was like, I'll either take it or I'll leave it. I don't really have to really care that much. If something, whenever new releases and games come out, stuff like that, if it's good enough, I go, all right, cool, it's good enough. But because Resident Evil 4 is a game that I would put in my top 10 favorite games, it's like, I know this remake's going to be at least decent, but is good enough going to be truly good enough? I don't know. So, but so far, it has really impressed me. As in terms of like not fucking up the original.
see,
Well, the pretty much general consensus I've seen is everyone's really enjoying it and thinks it's really good.
Yeah.
The only like real negative talk I've seen on it is just in regards to Ada Wong. Apparently, a lot of people are disappointed with what they've done
I will
with her
say
in this.
the character is fine. The voice actress is flat.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the voice actress is Lily Gao, who played Ada Wong.
Yeah, she
for
has
the bonus
no
credit
prior
scene of
voice
Welcome
experience.
to Raccoon City. I love that they.
The original actor from RA2 is a union worker, and Capcom didn't want to hire for that reason.
Oh.
Yeah, well, she wasn't even. Yeah, she was. She actually said, well, after the trailer came out, everyone's like, "Wait, she has a different voice actress." The original actress from RE2 Remake did say that she was never asked to come back for Resident Evil 4. So, but people seem to be upset with how she's kind of. From my gen, this is just purely like what I've seen on Twitter. And the kind of general consensus I've got, this is kind of something that Susie Hunter talked about in her video, was that it seems like the people aren't really happy with her characterization in this, and the fact that compared to the original, and it seems like they've cut a lot of her story from it, like a lot of her parts. Yeah, it seems like people just aren't really... From my general consensus, from what I'm saying, it just seems people aren't really happy with what they've done with Ada Wong. But I can't really see any other negative things in regards to the game as a whole. It's just really that, so... Who knows?
Say I'm of the mildly opposite opinion. I'm more of the hot take opinion on the original RE4. It ranks 8th out of 13. I played it in the lead up to Village, and RE4 didn't win me. I love Leon. It's a funnish game, but
I don't.
How dare you?
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. Keep going.
It's a funnish...
It's a meme at this point.
It's probably because I played it 20 years after the hype.
Well, that's the thing. I was watching Luke Stevens. I'm just starting to shout out YouTube channels, aren't I? That I watch. Luke Stevens was talking about it recently, and he says he's keen to play the remake because he's never properly played the original. but he said like he never played the original when it came out, and he was thinking about doing it recently, and he was watching videos on it, a gameplay on it, and he was just like it's been like 20 years, like I just don't want to go back and play that. And you know, for me as well, like part of the reason why I've just never gone back to it as well is because I played Resident Evil Village, and I was just like, this game is not good.
Meanwhile, I
And
absolutely love Village.
Well, here's the thing. I don't actually think it's that bad now, actually, to be honest with you.
I love Village.
With retrospect, I just thought at the time, I was like, you know, because like I played Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and I played Resident Evil 7 specifically so I could, you know, be prepared for Village when that came out. And then the entire time I played through Village, and I finished it, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's not a bad game, but like, I mean, compared to all the other Resident Evil games I've played, it's not that great. And yeah, so I kind of had a very negative kind of reception going out of it, which definitely has changed a lot in more recent years, I would say as well. Like more recently, like, you know, I'm talking like last year when I revisited a little bit, and just like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, you know what, it's actually pretty good. And but like that's more in retrospect rather than at the time. Yeah. So at the time, I was like, I'm not playing Resident Evil 4. If it's going to remind me of Village, not playing it. And so I never played it. But I'm also glad I did.
Village is one of my favorites. And out of the modern Resident Evil games from like 7 onwards, I think 3 Remake is my least favorite. And don't take that as a negative thing. It's just that if I had to like stack them, then that's how it goes. But for Resident Evil for the original, surprised me at least, because when I'm actually not too surprised by your hot take, Lewin, because do you remember, Lara, when we were back in like high school and stuff like that, and like we had the PS2 versions of Resident Evil 4 and stuff like that, and we're like, oh yeah, we played this and all that, but it was like, I don't know what it was, but like maybe it's because I was so used to games like Uncharted and stuff like that, that the very deliberate movement of Resident Evil 4 was a bit of a hump to get over. So back on the PS2, I don't think I got much further than the castle. I don't think, and it was that way for years. So like whenever people say like, cause I'm not one of those people, because even though Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games, it's not one of those games that is like, if someone says, oh, I'm not really fussed on Resident Evil 4, it's overrated or overhyped, it's not something I'll knee-jerk reaction be like, I don't, because I get, because I was that way. I didn't get Resident Evil 4. I think it was a bit after or before 7 come out, because they all came to PS4.
It came to PS4, right?
Yeah. So I was like,
I have it on PS4.
Yeah, I have it on every system except for PC. And so I was like, oh, I'll give it one more chance. And at first it was like, oh, I don't know, because it's very deliberate. You have to try and get used to that. And then it was towards somewhere near the end of the castle, the way that it's designed to be played just clicked for me, and I started my brain like finally truly understood how you're supposed to play Resident Evil 4, because once your brain gets it, it is by far the most fun way to play it. And ever since then, it's like, oh yeah, I love this game, I'll play it. Because way you rank Resident Evil games to me at like best to worst is how replayable they are. So Resident Evil 2, both the original and remake, are very replayable. Resident Evil 3 is very replayable, but that probably comes to how short it is. But Resident Evil 4, the original, is the only game that I've not only replayed more than twice, I replayed it 4 times in 1 year, which is something that never happens. So yeah, needless to say, it got its hooks in me.
I would never call RE4 overrated or even overhyped.
No.
When I sat down to play the game, it was probably the final... It and Code Veronica were the final Resident Evil games at the time that I had to play. I had experienced 5, I'd experienced 6, I played 2 Remake, I'd experienced the first Remake. it's I'd it is very much the progenitor of the 4 to 6 gameplay. So
Yeah.
when you've played 5 and 6 and felt how it evolves, that stand and stop shooting is really that, and I just never got the tone. And even on the remake, I'm gonna say I still don't feel the whole village tone and everything. It doesn't hit me the same. But that said, I'm 3 chapters off the end of remake, and it has moved RE4 from 8th place to definitely like 4th or 5th place. It has taken my favorite bits of RE2 remake. It has taken it's taken like the best mechanics. It's added some great new mechanics. It's evolved on RE3 remake. I love it as a game, and whilst the atmosphere still doesn't hit me, it hits just right as a Resident Evil game.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm pretty I am pretty keen to play it. And that's why I also just didn't bother playing. Haven't bothered playing it since. I kind of went through this period of time where I was like, I've got to play every Resident Evil game, and then that's just kind of gone now. And now I'm like, oh, I'll play full remake, and then I want to play the Resident Evil remake, so I can play as Jill.
Jill Valentine, yeah.
And then I'll probably also play 5 as well at some point, for Jill. And then I don't know what after the only out of the OGs, like the original releases, the first 3 games, the only one I want to play is Resident Evil 3, because I want to compare that to the remake. I have no interest in playing 1 or 2, but I'll play the remake of 1.
The remake of 1 is a fantastic Resident Evil game. It is my favorite.
And
I agree.
I played the first Revelations again for Jill. And I have Revelations 2, but I'm just like, and I've got Resident Evil 6, and I've got Resident Evil. I'm like, I should play like all of these, but I'm like, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, but Resident Evil Remake is definitely on the list at 100%, and then
absolutely
from there, Resident Evil 4 as well.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 3 Remake is I once played that all in one sitting from start to finish. I did it on stream. It was a great stream.
How many times have I completed Resident Evil 3 in 40 to 50 minutes? Too many, probably.
Yeah. It was great playing. It took that playthrough did take me 7 hours to do, but also like half of that stream was also just me fucking around as well. I know, and that stream was great because I made Carlos, I used a mod to change Carlos into Chris Redfield, and since they have the same voice actor, I'm just like, yeah, cool. And then I did that dumb clip that I uploaded on the Clips channel, where I was like, that fucking bait, where I was just like, oh my god, RE9, Chris and Jill, and it was just like a Jill Valentine mod, so she looked a bit different, but also like just Chris from RE8, but in Carlos's place. And I was just like, it was good times. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing Resident Evil 4. I'm pretty keen to kind of jump in and play a bit of that. Soon, probably. Yeah. The last Resident Evil thing I played was the DLC for Village.
I still need to play that.
I played that.
That's pretty good.
The bit with the fucking those dolls that move when you don't look at them, like the fucking weeping angels. I'm like, ay.
Oh my god, I was playing that and I was like, holy shit, this is just like the Weeping Angels.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's just like that one. It actually reminded me a lot. There was a Doctor Who game that came out a couple of years ago called The Edge of Reality. And there's a segment in that where like you're in this like this crypt underneath this like fucking house. And like there's just weeping angels in the crypt, and I remember we were streaming that, and we were streaming the playthrough of that game, and I was doing the weeping angel bit, and I'm not even kidding, it was so tense, like I was just like, this is the best part of the entire game, because it was so tense and so like good. I was like, man, fuck, this is such a good bit. But yeah, I remember streaming that. That was fun. And I remember when I streamed that, I had a bunch of, like, I got quite a few extra views on those streams because, you know, we had some Doctor Who people come in. And so it was just great, kind of just chatting Doctor Who while playing that shit game. It was fun. But that bit was really good, so I really enjoyed that. You know what, Lord? I think I'm going to buy the PS4 version of that game just so I can have a physical copy of it for the Doctor Who game collection.
Nice.
Yeah, because you can buy from JB for pretty cheap, and it's paired with the fucking mobile game.
That's actually
that came
a
out.
really solid game.
Lonely Assassins. Yeah, it's like the two of those paired together on PS4, but it's the only like physical release of that game. So I'm like, oh, it'd be good for the Doctor Who collection, so I might pick that up. I'm never going to play it, but I just want it to sit on the shelf. I'll probably play the Lonely Assassins, though. I'll probably plug that into the good old PS4 and bloody play that. But, yeah, like, playing through that segment in the Resident Evil DLC just reminded me so much of that particular level from that Doctor Who game. Oh, it was good.
Honestly, I love it because I didn't expect the DLC to actually have any strong horror themes to it. So when it got to that bit, I'm like, well, they're not going to outdo the big fetus baby. And then it's like, don't look away or something like that written on the wall. And then as soon as I went down that little hallway and I could hear the creaking like, I'm like, oh, for the love of God, what now?
Yeah, they really fucking outdid themselves.
Yeah, surprised me.
Yeah, I the only thing that annoys me about the Village DLC is it was like meant to be kind of the conclusion to the Winter's Saga. Yeah. And I mean, I guess it is for Ethan, I guess, but also it has the exact same ending that Resident Evil Village has, which is an open-ended ending. So I'm like, how is this the conclusion to the Winter's Saga if you're using the exact same open-ended ending with Rose that you did in the main game? Like, how's this the conclusion? So I fully suspect Rose will carry into RE9. She probably won't be the main character. I'll be annoyed if she's the main character, but I'm sure she'll be present.
I'll be interested.
Look, I wouldn't be against it, but I want something else from RE9, Jacob.
You want Jill.
Do you want to take a guess at what that is?
I know, and I reckon she'll be in it. So don't fret too much now. But like I said, too.
After all, she doesn't age anymore.
Or I'll leave it. I want you to impress me.
I'll be fine if Rose is the protagonist, like, whatever. But, like, why fucking sell the DLC as the conclusion to the Winter Saga if you're just gonna make her the protagonist in the next game? Like, don't do that. That's just dumb. So, I don't know. That's my only problem with it, but I enjoyed the DLC as a whole. And, yeah, I did actually play a little bit of I replayed the Castle Dimitrescu section with the third-person update. And I much prefer that game in third person than first person. I think first person worked really well in RE7, but I just think in Village it really didn't add anything to Village. So yeah, I mean, that's just a personal preference thing. That's not really like whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just like Resident Evil 3, so yeah, the rest of them, they're either good or bad. It doesn't really matter. But I am excited for Jill to finally come back in Resident Evil Death Island, which is coming up in a few months. Do you know what's great about that? Do you know what's funny about that is they put Jill is going to be the main character of that, yet fucking Leon and Chris are the characters on the poster. Fucking pisses me off.
As his life.
To be fair, though, that poster was released alongside the teaser trailer, and Jill was only teased in that trailer. She wasn't, like, meant to be a big thing. So, like, I understand why she's not on the poster for that purpose. But, like, also, like, she's the main character of the story. They've literally confirmed she is the main character. So, like, put her on the fucking poster, you know? But I am excited for Leon and Jill to meet each other for the first time. That's going to be interesting.
My two of my top 3 characters meeting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And the way they've justified Jill's design in it, being her remake design, It's just simply they're like, yeah, so she just doesn't really age. She just ages really slowly now compared to everyone else after RE5. So that's why she's younger. I actually saw a meme of you know how you could use like the old face filters on like people to make them look old. Yeah, someone did that with like Chris from RE8, and then they just put Jill Valentine from Resident Evil 3 Remake just right next to him, and it's like, here's Jill and Chris in RE9, and it's just like old man Chris with like young Jill. That's kind of funny. I enjoy that. Anyway, that's enough Resident Evil talk.
Yep.
I haven't been doing much, personally. Just been playing Destiny. Lightfall just came out. I'm not going to talk about that this episode just because I haven't had the chance to finish it yet.
And rest in peace, Lance Reddick.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was actually literally about to bring that up. Yeah, Lance Reddick, who obviously known for a lot of iconic performances. He was the type of actor who would just show up in things and he'd just be really good. But like he wouldn't be like outside of like the couple of like really major roles he's played, he wouldn't be like a major character. He'd just be there, but like he'd just steal the scenes. And that's kind of like what he was in Destiny. You know, like Destiny, he played Commander Zavala, and Commander Zavala is by far, out of all the current characters in the game, is by far probably the character that's had the most development and the most kind of like great iconic scenes. So yeah, and it was actually really cool when the news of him passed, all the Destiny community kind of got together and went to the tower, and there was all these like vigils happening for where Commander Zavala is in the tower, which is pretty cool. I went up and I saluted. I did my part. Unfortunately, no one else was there because I fucking ended up in a tower instance where no one else spawned in. So I was kind of there on my own, but you know, I still went and got my weekly bounties, and then I saluted, did the salute emote. But yeah, I've just been playing that, so I don't really have kind of a lot to say about Lightfall right now, other than it's like Cyberpunk, but it's Destiny. The general consensus is that Lightfall is bad. That's the general consensus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, no one can be happy these days.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, out of what I've played, I'm quite disappointed, especially because the Witch Queen, the last deal, like the last expansion, was so fucking good. This is kind of mid, and you know, this is meant to be the penultimate chapter in the Light and Dark saga. You know, this is like meant to lead into the final expansion that we've been building towards for 10 years. And yeah, it's just kind of mid so far. Like, I've got a lot of positive things to say. I really like the new location. You know what? I'll talk about it a bit. Fuck it. I really like the new location. I think it's really good. It's not as big as some of the other locations. It's quite small, but there's a lot of enemies, so there's a lot to shoot and a lot to do. The biggest problem with like the Witch Queen's location, Savathun's Throne World, it was quite big, but there was a lot of empty space where just nothing was happening. So I really like that. I like the kind of like cyberpunk kind of vibe that's going on. That's kind of fun. There's like fucking neon lights and shit around the place, which I like. It's a very different location to what you'd come to expect from a Destiny location. A lot of Destiny locations are very like run down, like Earth locations, or like some kind of like planet base or something. So like it's very unique. So that's pretty cool. Story wise, I'm gonna be real honest with you. I have no idea what the fuck is going on, like at all. Like I don't know. I couldn't tell you anything about the story. And it seems like the reason why people hate Lightfall is because people finished the story and were just like, what? That seems to be the general consensus, is people are like, what is the Veil? Still don't know what is going on. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I don't have a lot to say on that aspect because I haven't finished it. But just in terms of general gameplay, it's fucking Destiny. Still going strong. Still the best first-person shooter on the market out there. Like, I think it's pretty hard to argue that there's any other first-person shooter gameplay wise that's better than what Destiny's doing right now, what Bungie are doing with Destiny. Just every gun is just solid. Feels so like they all pack a punch. They all have great sound design. The gameplay is very fluid. I mean, we've all played Destiny in the past. We know what Destiny's gameplay is like. There's no point talking about it. It's
Destiny.
It's just as good as it always has been. As for like other things like PvP and things like that, I don't really engage with that. But PvP has been ignored yet again. So all the people that like do that kind of thing are really upset that there's no new maps or anything for PvP for like the third or fourth expansion in a row. So yeah, it seems like Bungie's very focused on PvE and they don't really give a shit about PvP. But yeah, I mean, that's just where I'm up to. The only thing I don't like is the game is forcing me to do the general playlist activities to level up my character so I can do the next story mission. Like, I just want to do the next story mission and I can't because I'm not a high enough light level. And if you know me, you know, I hate that type of level gating shit in games. It pisses me off. So I just want to play the story, man. Like, I just want to play the game. Why can't I just do that? So, you know, I don't like that. The Witch Queen didn't really have any of that. They kind of took that kind of thing out, the kind of meaningless bullshit for the Witch Queen. So I don't know why it's back now. But it is what it is. Anyway, that's my Destiny Lightfall rant. There you go.
I look forward to the finished
as for
product.
Crisis Core, as Crisis Core, I finished Crisis Core, and my final verdict on that game is I like it. It's a good game.
Hey.
Which is different to my previous verdict, which is like, I like it, it's a good game, but also, what the fuck?
How long is it?
I fucking don't know. How long did it take me to do? It's not long. Like, it's a PSP game.
Yeah, I have it on PSP.
It's only
Same.
It's only 10 chapters.
Okay.
Where like Final Fantasy VII Remake was 18 chapters. So there's only 10, and the chapters are short. Like, the chapters are not long. I think I only played it. I don't know, actually. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how long I played it. I wasn't really paying that much attention to it, but I did just beeline the story. I did do some of the side stuff, but not a lot of it. I kind of just played the story. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. And in the end, and from my understanding, like, I haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII, and because this game is more related to that than the remake, I can't really comment on how it is in comparison to that. Like, I know what I've heard, but I can't really say for sure, you know, whether changes that have been made in Crisis Core to certain events from the original game is good or not. But the game picks up towards the end. Like, it's decent. I quite enjoyed it by the end of it, I think. And I love the gameplay. The gameplay of the remaster is... Yeah, it's a remaster, right?
Yeah.
The gameplay is really good. Like, obviously it's a completely different system to the original game. It's much more in line with Remake. But it's also different to Remake as well. It's really fun and engaging to play. It's just a fun game to play. So I would say if you do play it, honestly, I'd play the remaster, not play the original. Plus,
I
the
have it on
remastered
PSP,
is...
but it's more for collector's purposes. If I want to be interested into actually playing the game, I'll beat Remake first, not because I ought to for lore or story related reasons, but because I need to get that game out of the fucking way and to make room for more games, and then I'll play Crisis Core.
Well, Crisis Core Remake, while it is a remake of the original Crisis Core game, which is more directly related to Final Fantasy VII than Remake, Crisis Core Remastered does tie into the Remake project. So, it's in a very minor way. Like, all it is they've changed... Basically, the way Crisis Core ended was there was a cutscene at the end, which was... Remember back in the day, this is before the remake of 7 was even a thing. They did the opening scene for Final Fantasy VII, and they remade it to show off the tech of the PS3. It's basically the original ending for Crisis Core was taking that cinematic and then just like also intercutting some new stuff with Cloud just to kind of directly tie it to Final Fantasy VII. What they've done with the remastered is they've replaced that cinematic with the Final Fantasy VII Remake version of the intro instead.
Okay.
Which is very jarring when you cut all of a sudden from like really high quality fidelity look of Aerith, and then it just cuts to the original version of Cloud from the FMV from the original game. It's really jarring, but the reason why they've done that is because it's basically them saying that Crisis Core is still canon to the remake despite all of the changes in Remake. Yeah, that's why it's part of the remake project, because obviously we know the remake is going to be 3 games. And it's not really a remake. It's more of like, here's just a new thing. So that's why I'm not getting excited for remake part, like the second game Reunion, because there's no point. I'm not going to be able to play it this year anyway, so I'm just going to wait. I'll probably watch a playthrough of it because I don't think I'm going to be able to wait.
I'll start getting excited once I fucking finish the first one.
I'm more keen for Final Fantasy 16 at this point.
It's my favorite. Yeah, see, I'm hyped for that as well, but I can't play it, so I'm like, there's no point getting hyped over that yet. But I am keen to play that when I eventually can. But yeah, like, Crisis Core was good, I think, in the end. I really enjoyed it. I'm still going to maintain that the guy that voices Zack isn't good. I think having the remake cast really elevated that game, to be honest, because I think the dialogue... Yeah, you know how Final Fantasy has that kind of stuff? I've talked about this before, but you know how like Final Fantasy has like this kind of stylized dialogue where it's like it's very like anime kind of dialogue where it's like it's not kind of like things a real person would say, but it's also not quite bad dialogue at the same time. It's kind of just this like weird kind of in between. Crisis Core has bad dialogue. Like, I'm talking actually bad dialogue in it. But the benefits of having the cast from Remake in there is they fucking elevate that shit. Like, there are so many, like, bad... Like, there are a couple of bad lines that Cloud says in Crisis Core where I'm like, oh my god. But, like, I don't know, just the guy that's... Maybe it's also my bias towards Remake, possibly, as well. But I'm like, I mean, you know, he's doing a good job with what he has, you know? I'm surprised Tifa was in it very little, because I thought Tifa was going to be a bit more in it, because obviously, like, I know Aerith is more involved in Crisis Core because she more directly ties to Zack's story like Cloud does, where Tifa's kind of just there at one point in the game. But given that she was in the trailers and shit, I was like, oh, I can't wait for like the second half of the game where Tifa's going to be in it. It's going to be great. My favorite character. It's going to be all good. And then she's only in it for like a little bit. She's like in it for a tiny little bit, and then you're like, oh, well, I guess she's gone now. But that's not really here or there. I just enjoyed the game. Would I play it again? Probably not. No.
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna lie. It's not that kind of
game. I feel that way with
like I've played
all the Final Fantasies I've played so far.
I would agree, but I'm playing through Remake, so I finally finished Red Dead Redemption 2.
Hell yeah.
Sweet.
Here we are. It's been the journey for the past 6 months. Of just slowly chipping away at that game every weekend while I'm playing other things during the week. And yeah, I finally finished that. And by the way, like, at the time of recording this, I finished it like fucking at the start of February. Like, it's been a long time since I've finished it, but I finally finished it, so I'll keep it brief. I really enjoyed the whole thing, you know? It's just really nice. It's really good. If you want to learn more about my opinions as a whole on Red Dead, I've talked about it quite extensively over the past few podcasts. More extensively the recent one we did, the last one we did, where I talked about how Red Dead has consumed my life.
It's been a real journey, considering at the beginning of the podcast you were never going to play it.
That is true. That's very true. I was never going to play Red Dead Redemption because that ship had fucking sailed, but yet here we are. I have over 200 hours in that game now.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Yeah, 200 hours. Bear in mind, like, some of that's the online as well. Like, I play the online quite a lot. as you could probably tell earlier, I was actually playing Red Dead Redemption Online while we were trying to figure out what was going on with you. But yeah, I still play quite regularly, and I'm considering getting into the roleplay as well, because I've been watching a lot of the Red Dead roleplay. And so I'm considering getting into that on one of the servers. But we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so I just thought I'd update, say that I finished it. Really good. Very much enjoyed the kind of last parts of the story as well, like kind of leading up to Arthur's death there. I thought that was... got fucking pretty intense for a while there. It was bloody good stuff. Good stuff. PC version's still glitchy. Still gonna maintain it's not a great PC port at all. But you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. But yeah, it's a bit of fun. So I'm would I replay it again? Yeah, I probably would one day for sure. I think like I never really had an interest in replaying Grand Theft Auto 5. But, like, this one, I'm like, oh, I'd love to play this one again, you know? Yeah. Banging soundtrack, amazingly written characters. That final kind of, like, I didn't really get emotional or anything over Arthur's death because I knew it was coming. But what got me was there was two very specific moments where I kind of got a bit emotional. It was when I was riding after we saved Jack. Oh, sorry, no, after we save the mum, Jack's mum's, John Marsden's wife, Abigail. There we go. We got there eventually. After we save her, so like it's the mission where you go with Sadie to Van Horn and you like fucking save her, and then you know, you kind of go your separate ways with everyone, and you head off towards to meet Dutch, and it was kind of that like cinematic horse ride where like the music was playing and you had like all the little sound vignettes from like things from throughout the game. Like I knew it was coming, but like that bit got me emotional because I was like, it's no longer coming, it's happening, you know? And so I was like, oh, like that was I really would have loved to have experienced that game not knowing that Arthur dies. I think that would have been a really powerful thing for me, but instead it was that moment. Like that's what kind of got me emotional. And then when the horse died as well, I was like, I just got this horse too.
That horse has been with me from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so that would even be more emotional. I was talking with someone else about this, is they had the horse from the start of the game to the end, and like I'm like, well, that would hit even harder. But I did the mission where you help the guy hunt a bunch of animals. The guy that lives in the house. And he gave me and then when he dies and you get his horse, and I'm like, yay! And then I immediately went and did those final couple of missions, and the horse died straight away. And I'm just like, well, I just got this horse, so now I'm really sad.
It was my horse when he died too. And it was like the best horse in the fucking game, and I got him killed.
I
should have taken in hindsight. In the hindsight, I should have taken him to the stables, because then I think I would have access to hit that horse in the epilogue as John later on. But you know, whatever, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, that was good. But then the Arthur's death scene didn't really affect me in any way. I just was like, I'd never seen it. I want to say, like, I purposely never watched anything to do with Arthur's death. I just knew what happened.
Which one did you get?
I got the one... See, I know there's a couple of different versions of that. I think there's two, right? There's two versions, depending on that one of the choices.
Your high honor or low honor.
Yeah.
And whether you go back
and obviously, oh my god, towards the end of the game, man, they really fucking tip the scales either way with those kind of decisions you make. I got the high honor ending, I'm pretty sure, because I had good honor. Like, I was very determined to have good honor. I wanted to be Arthur facing the sun and dying on the boulder there, looking at the sunset. But yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I had to kind of take a break after that scene. Like, well, because once I did that, I'm like, I knew I'm up to the John Marsden bit, so I'm like, okay, let's just take a break for a few days and let's just kind of soak in the journey we'd been on before we kind of jump into the rest of it from there. But yeah, and I enjoyed the John Marsden bit. I even enjoyed shoveling the shit. That was fun. yeah, I enjoyed that whole section of the game as well. I'd say my only real complaint about Red Dead Redemption 2 story is there's quite a couple of times, well, quite a couple. There's a couple of times where the pacing just really slows down for no real reason. And like there's a few times in that story, there's a couple of chapters where like there's a lot of nothing happening for a long period of time. But having that been said, I think during those moments, I think it's a lot more subtle in a lot of areas, but there's a lot of really great character work going on during those times as well. So it's not entirely a negative. It's like it's still really good stuff. There's a lot of like really great character writing on all the different relationships. And I was definitely the type of player that would just stand around the camp and just listen to everyone talk to each other. Because that was like really interesting to me, just watching how all these relationships develop and change over the course of the game based on what's happening. Yeah, I mean, that's all I have to really say about it. My game did glitch out on the Sadie mission in the canyon above Armadillo. And it took me ages to figure out why it was happening, and I realized it was a mod I had installed that I had to uninstall that had nothing to do with what was going on in the mission, but it was somehow conflicting with it. It was basically, you know, the bit in that mission where like you're riding along the top of the canyon and you're following the guys through the canyon until you get to the kind of section where it's like open and rounded and you're looking down, and you go up to the edge and you look down. So what was happening for me was we would get to that point, and then Sadie would say something, and then it would just be silence and nothing would happen. And I watched a walkthrough and I'm like, John's meant to say something in response, but he's not doing it, and then nothing is happening. And anyway, I figured out eventually it was some random mod that had nothing to do with anything that was conflicting with this for some reason. I was looking up on forums, I was trying to find what was going on. And I eventually found it, and the people were saying for some reason, and no one knows why this happens, but if you have this particular mod installed, it fucks up 2 of those Sadie missions at the end of the game, and you just have to uninstall the mod while you do those missions. So I literally just removed that one file from the mods folder, and then the missions worked fine. It was weird. But I was very upset because I was at the end of the game and I'm like, why are you fucking up now? Like, why are you... Anyway. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I played that, so that's one to tick off the list. We've done it. We did it. We're here.
Howdy.
Do you know what else I've been doing lately, boys?
What have you been doing?
I think we've all been doing it, and that is... I've been playing... It was probably a bit of a surprise to you, I'm going to be honest, but I've been playing a little bit of Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, damn.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
So
I did know that. Why am I acting surprised?
Yeah, I said it before we started recording.
We've talked about this off stream many times. This isn't a stream. Anyway, yeah, Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, we've all been playing Hogwarts Legacy. And I actually have some thoughts on it. Nothing too crazy. I've only played about, I think, 10 or 11 hours of it, which is more than what I was planning on playing initially. So, there you go. But I have some interesting thoughts about it. Some thoughts that you might not expect from someone who doesn't really give a shit about Harry Potter, and so didn't really care that much about this game anyway. But I'm going to save my thoughts. I'm going to hold on to that little nugget for a while. And
Okay.
I'm going to pass it on to you guys. And what ye all thought of Hogwarts Legacy? Whichever
okay.
one of you can go first. You decide amongst yourselves.
Jacob,
Let Lou
you
go
go.
first.
No, you let me go first last time. You go.
Okay. One thing I was surprised by with Hogwarts Legacy is that I too put in a little bit more hours than I thought I was going to, because I thought if I could just make it through the story quests, that'd be fine. And then before I knew it, I was close to the end of the story quest, and I had done like 85% of the side quests and had put fucking like 30 hours into it. I'm like, oh, like I guess I've been enjoying it so far. So, so there's that. I will say this though, I was very underwhelmed with the plot because there is almost none of it. It's very uneventful.
Well, that's like what I was saying. before we started recording. I was saying to Lewin that I don't really know that much of what's going on. I'm not really paying attention to the story. I've just got my Red Dead roleplay playing on the other monitor, and I'm paying more attention to that than the story. So like the general the general gist of, I've actually even turned the game volume just down because I'm like, it's fine. The story doesn't matter. So like the general gist I've got is Goblin is bad, and we have a bunch of ancient magic power for some reason, and that's pretty much it. Stop Goblin being bad. That's the general gist of the story I've gotten so far.
That's all I remember.
And there's a bunch.
I played it like 2 weeks ago.
There's a bunch of big paintings on a wall that all were professors at Hogwarts that one time. So I mean,
that one time.
There's a bunch of tombs to raid. It's like a magic Tomb Raider game.
Yeah.
That's all I really know that's going on. I'm not really paying attention, and I'm also skipping dialogue on all the side missions as well. So all I know about the side missions is what the objective tells me to do. I'm like, oh, I've got to go do this thing. Oh, that's interesting. And then I go do it. And I had a side mission where I had to go and like fucking for one of the shop people. I think it's the guy that is in the Broom, the sports shop. And I had to like travel up the map past Hogwarts to this random little village just to like hassle the fucking merchant that was there, because apparently they have some kind of business relationship or something or other. But they're like in a disagreement or some shit. So I'm just like, yep, cool. Here's a bunch of dialogue. Skip, skip, skip. Oh, look, wow, they've agreed to work with each other. Now I have to fly all the way back to the fucking Hogsmeade. And I'm just like, okay, well, at least I get to fly past Hogwarts, I guess. That's a nice little fun time. So
you are aware there's a fast travel option, right?
Yeah, I was, but I didn't have the fast travel for the village because it was up past the map that I hadn't explored yet. So I had to fly there. And I could have flown back. I could have fast traveled back to Hogsmeade, but I decided to fly back instead because I was just like, I had to fly past Hogwarts again.
One funny story that I
anyway, my whole point there was I have no idea what the fuck is going on in this game, and it's fine. It sounds like no one else does either.
And I was trying to pay attention.
I think I'm doing pretty well for someone who's not paying any attention to it whatsoever. I will say I was pretty into it in the start of it. I think the game does a good job at the start of the story to kind of set it up a bit and kind of get you into it. And then after that kind of initial thing, once you go to Hogwarts, it's just then kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my I had to do a mission. The only other side mission I remember doing is I had to go to the kitchen to get some meat for the fucking headless people, so they could put their head through it or something, and I guess they can then smell it or some shit. I don't know what was going on, but I'm like...
So, that's a Gryffindor one. Are you a Gryffindor?
I am, yes.
Yes! Red House represent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to do that.
One story One story I love that I have is fucking... when I play games like this, I always try to be the most altruistic person. Like a lot of side quests in Hogwarts Legacy have this thing where they'll do, oh, can you do this thing for me or this and that, and you do it for you. So you do it for them, and then when you've completed it and you accept your the mission end, you have the dialogue choice that's like, oh yeah, of course it was nothing, and you can be nice and chivalrous and won't accept any rewards, or you could be like, yeah, I'm not doing this for free, pay up or something like that. I always pick the kind one. I'm like, oh no, it was no trouble, this and that. But there's one exception where I have stumbled across this side mission in Hogsmeade where he's like, hey, can you break into my rival's business and steal his prized possession, which was some sort of venomous plant or something like that. And I had one of those venomous plants in my inventory. So instead of actually breaking into his place and stealing this thing, I just gave him one of mine. I didn't have to do the side mission. And then when he goes, oh, yeah, this will finally ruin that prick. How will I repay you? I'm like, I'm not doing this for free, mate. Pay up. So I'm like, get shit.
Eat shit, dickhead. I fucking got free money for doing fucking nothing. I didn't even do the thing that you wanted.
Yeah, yeah, I've just done a bunch of shit and not really been paying that much attention to it. What about you, Lewin? How are you feeling about the game? Have you finished it like Jacob or?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's
I am
fine.
still before the second trial. Got distracted by Resident Evil mainly,
Oh,
but
Makes sense.
so you're up to where I am then. Roughly
I've-
about. You're probably a bit ahead of me because it's quite a few missions before you get to that second trial.
yeah, I ended up going off and doing a lot of the collectibles and shit, and I still kind of am.
No,
Um,
my favorite thing to not do in video games.
honestly, it is a drag in this game. The gameplay loop is fun for missions and things, but once you extend it to the open world where you have to keep going into camps, open a chest, leave, it gets a bit draining.
Oh, but don't you want to do the bandit camps, Lewin?
Oh, fuck yeah.
You know, the
I'm a
Assassin's
fucking-
Creed bandit camps?
That thing that I love in Assassin's Creed Odyssey that drained my entire willpower. Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic.
Love open worlds that have bandit camps. Seems it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what the setting for an open world game is. If it's an open world RPG, there has to be bandit camps. There's fucking bandit camps in Cyberpunk. Although they're not
what I love?
really bandit camps, but they're bandit camps though, aren't they? You know what I mean?
You know what I love in Breath of the Wild? There are goblin camps, but then there's no requisite for doing any of them. There's just camps there. They're not even part of, like, you just walk into a camp of goblins or bokoblins, you're like, oh, cool, I don't have to kill all of yous, but I will, because it's fun.
Yeah. I don't know, I just hate that kind of shit open world games, and that's one of the reasons.
See, that's why Breath of the Wild over Assassin's Creed.
Well, I mean, actual Assassin's Creed over Breath of the Wild. Fucking. I mean, look, you can't really argue with that.
You put me in a
Nah,
tough
again.
position because I love Breath of the Wild, but AC2 is one of my
Yeah,
favorite
when I talk
games
about
of all
actual
time.
Assassin's Creed, I mean actual Assassin's Creed, like real Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, if you nah, sorry.
Like 2009 to
AC2.
2014.
Assassin's Creed 2 does win over Breath of the Wild.
I'm
for
sorry,
me.
but 2015 still counts, alright? Syndicate is a great game.
I guess.
Look, I will say for an
never-
open world game, Origins is also good
But
because it
it's
was the
also
first
an
one to do
RPG.
the formula.
It was also an RPG, so.
I Origins is my second favorite AC game.
Origins is responsible for the downfall of Assassin's Creed.
I would argue that
And it's not because Origins is a bad game in its own right or anything like that. It's because it created the template for what the series became afterwards. And so... I don't know why we're talking about Assassin's Creed. It doesn't fucking matter.
Hogwarts Legacy, as a Harry Potter fan, I grew up with Harry Potter, is my childhood. I am deeply saddened by modern events.
Yeah.
It is a good
I'm
fan
not
service
going to
game.
make any comment on that.
Yeah, fair.
Neither am I.
It is a good fan service game. It has lots of lore from the books packed in. It has enough stuff to make me go, oh wow, they included that. And as a first attempt at a major game like this from a studio that's only done fucking Disney Infinity, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10 or whatever.
No, you're
It's a
you're forgetting they did whatever the last Cars video game was.
There was a fucking Cars video game after the PS2 tie-in. What?
Yeah, whichever the last Cars video game was, the Avalanche Studios made that. That was like their last game.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah. That was their last game before Hogwarts Legacy was fucking Cars, whatever it was called.
I don't know why I'm struggling with that one, but I am.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. I'm enjoying the fan service. I enjoy the gameplay loop on a minimal level. if you apply it to the larger scale game, I think it needs refinement. But I think as a studio, they can do better the more they go on. Like Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
So my question is, does this game need to be an open world RPG?
Fuck no.
No, but considering the story is so fucking boring, I'm kind of glad that it is, because I'm like, oh great, I can do other things than just stand in place and listen to these fucking dumbasses talk for 2 hours on end.
Honestly,
Like, at least I can get on a broom and fucking
fly around the
raid
place.
tombs and...
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
basically like Wizard Tomb Raider in the same way that, like, Jedi Fallen Order is, like, Space Tomb Raider.
I was going to say Jedi Fallen Order is more like a soft Star Wars Souls game.
Oh, yeah,
would
but,
agree,
like,
as
you
I'm-
raid tombs, so...
I would agree, since
Yeah.
Lara's playing boring skinning a ball. I'm currently fucking playing Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, and it's like Space Tomb Raider, but with also Dark Souls elements. And I like to think of Hogwarts Legacy as Magic Tomb Raider, because all I've really done besides ride
All
my...
roads lead to Tomb Raider.
Exactly. That's just how the world works. All right, I don't make the rules.
Lara's vision versus my vision, where I agree with Jacob and all roads lead to Dark Souls.
I mean, to be fair, like I will say, like here's my little. I was gonna say a hot take, but it's not really a hot take. It's more of just a take. Yeah, so I don't really give that much of a shit about Harry Potter, right? I made this pretty known. I watched them when I was a kid. You know, they were good times, fun times. I actually used to be really into it. I really enjoyed watching those early movies. I've probably seen those early movies, you know, a dozen times or whatever. I kind of fell out of it towards the end of the movie series, though. Like, I've only ever seen each of the Deathly Hallows movies once. I've only ever... And I didn't watch Deathly Hallows Part 2 until, like, a year or two after it came out. And I've only seen the sixth one, like, twice. But, like, those first 5 films I've watched quite a lot, right? And, like... The ones I like the most are Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. Like, I love that era of the films more than the later stuff. It just starts getting too dark, and, like, the color palette... Like, I get that the... Oh, fuck. I fell in the water. I get the... I should be screen recording this, and then that way I can put it in the video for the podcast, and it's just me fucking around in Red Dead Redemption. Lewin's recording his end, playing Jedi Fallen Order, and I'm just cutting between the two as each one of us talks. But yeah, like, I kind of, like, that's the era. Like, I don't know, it just started getting too dark and depressing, for my liking. And also, I think the later movies aren't as good quality as some of the earlier movies as well. Not that they're bad movies, like, but the point I'm making is I kind of just fell out of it. I was kind of just like, whatever about it. I have read all the books, loved reading all the books, good times.
Why does that surprise me? That actually surprises me.
Yeah, well, it was back when I was a kid and I actually read books, alright? And I actually...
It wasn't even the reading part that got me. It was just the fact that you've read Harry Potter.
Yeah. I did when I was a kid. I read them all when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think we all read them as a kid. I think I've still got... Oh, well, actually, I'm missing Philosopher's Stone. I found all the books when I moved out, and there's, like, the ones where it's like the cover's a little different, it's glossy if the movie came out because they're trying to re-release to promote the movie. And there's the regular paperback ones, and then my Deathly Hallows one is a hard book one because my mum felt fancy that one time, I guess. I was like, oh yeah, I got all the Harry Potter books when I was a kid, and then I can't find Philosopher's Stone.
I've only just realised that the only hardcover Harry Potter book we own is fucking Deathly Hallows.
Actually, well, my Half-Blood Prince one is hardcover with a little, like, paper slip, but, like, Deathly Hallows is also one, but it's like an alternate cover art. Like, instead of the traditional, like, illustration, it's just a picture of, like, a medallion, like a photograph of a medallion, and it just says in big bold black letters Harry Potter, and then, like, the Deathly Hallows underneath it. And I'm like, I guess Mum wanted to feel fancy that day. I don't know.
But yeah, anyway, that's kind of like my kind of end of the relationship with Harry Potter. So I didn't really give a shit about this game. I never did. And I'm going to be honest, even, like, in the build up to it, like, I already don't care about the story. I think the world of Harry Potter is interesting, so like there was that element that I was like, oh yeah, that could be cool. Like, and I remember playing, you know, the classic PC version of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets back in the day.
An absolute fucking triumph of a game.
That is a fucking banger of game, that one. And so I was like, oh yeah, you know, like, I mean, I'm sure it'd be fun to like jump back. And so I had an interest in the sense of just jumping back into the world. But every bit of gameplay I saw, I'm like, fuck, this game looks so mid. And it's like one of those situations, this is where my take is going to come in, that's probably going to surprise you. You know how I hate open world games, you know?
Sure do.
Well,
Yeah, you've made that
open
clear.
world RPGs, that kind of things. Like, obviously, I like sub-open world games, depending on which ones they are. But, like, I'm talking about your Assassin's Creeds or your fucking Fallouts or whatever, right? And so, like, I was just like, the idea of just another one of those, I was just like, oh. And then I look at the gameplay they were showing off, and I'm like, oh, it's all just fucking green fields and trees. It just looks like literally every other game. And I was just like, this looks like shit. And then the combat, I was just like, oh, this looks so fucking, like, mid. It just doesn't look fun. Surprisingly, do you know what part of the game I enjoy the most?
Is it the combat?
It's the combat. The combat's fucking great. It's one of those things. I think it's one of the things, you know how some games, it's like, you don't really get it by watching gameplay. Like, you actually need to, like, play it to really kind of get a sense of what that's like. Hogwarts Legacy is one of those games, because when you're watching gameplay for it, you're like, oh, it kind of plays like every other kind of, like, action game, right? But it's, like, ranged. It's, like, all ranged. And it's, like, it just looks really, like... I don't think clunky is the right word, but it doesn't look like fluid. It didn't look like, it just looked a bit awkward. It didn't really look like it would be an engaging combat system. So I am very happy that when you're playing it itself in game, it's actually really nice. I quite enjoy the combat, and it is the combat is the only reason I am still playing this game after 11 hours.
Fair.
Because the novelty of being at Hogwarts wore off after I explored the whole castle. I was like, cool, that's nice. Hogwarts. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, that novelty's worn off now. I want to talk a bit about the design of the game, but yeah, that's kind of my take. Like, I'm really... that's kind of what surprised me about Hogwarts Legacy, was I wasn't expecting to just enjoy playing it. And like, even though I was talking before about how, you know, like all the green fields and shit like that, like so generic and bland, when you're actually playing the game, there's a lot of just the design of the game, the design of the world. There's a lot of like really just, you know, interesting. It's the Wizarding World, so there's a lot of like really interesting or like wacky buildings, or like you know, the Forbidden...
I enjoy all those, like, fantastical elements.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, really interesting things in the world. And it also helps that, you know, I don't think this came across really well in gameplay footage, but it also helps that, like, the game just looks really good.
It does.
Like, it's a nice-looking game. And one thing that I really do enjoy is the kind of immediate area around Hogwarts. It doesn't matter where you are, really, in that area, is... you can just turn the camera, and whether you're at the Forbidden Forest or whatever, and like you can just see Hogwarts through the trees. Or if you're like up the road and you turn the camera left, you can see Hogwarts across the river. You know, like it's just like, I really love how they've designed that whole area, because obviously like Hogwarts is the centerpiece of the Harry Potter universe, right? And so I like how they've designed that whole area where no matter where you are, you can always just turn and you can see this nice, lovely landscape of Hogwarts. And it looks great every time, and especially at night. This game looks fucking fantastic at night.
Yeah.
It also looks fantastic at night in the game as well. Okay, that was a dumb joke, I'm sorry. I'll leave now. But that's kind of my general experience of the game. Is I'm really enjoying just playing it. I really like all the little like wizard tombs and things that you go into. Well, not necessarily all tombs, but you know what I mean. They're like the things that you have to like go in and you have to like go through them and solve the puzzles or whatever it may be, fight off the people. Like that's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed spending time in the Forbidden Forest. I think that's a cool area. I love like running through the Forbidden Forest, but then you see all these like little like frames and signs and things that are just like for the Ministry of Magic being like do not enter or whatever. Thought that was kind of cool. I haven't explored much of the map beyond that initial Hogwarts area. Like I've done a few areas specific for missions, but I haven't like fully explored it. It's pretty much just that immediate area like Hogwarts and Hogsmeade and all those areas around there. That's kind of mostly what I've explored. But I mean, it's fun to play. I'm enjoying just playing the game, and I'm going to keep playing it till probably I've unlocked the full kind of spells and kind of had a bit of a play around. Because one thing I do really like about the combat is how you can string combos together. I like, and so I've still got a few spells to learn, but once I've kind of gone through them, I'm excited to see kind of where it goes. And the version of the game that I have also has the Dark Arts arena as well, so I'll be really interested to check that out.
Are you going to learn the unforgivable curses?
Absolutely. I'm going to be a Gryffindor. Yeah. I'm going to be a Gryffindor that's just going to go around and fucking murdering people, alright? It's going to be great.
I don't know much of a spoiler this is, but like there's a string of side quests where it's like, oh, here's a friend of yours that can teach you the dark arts. And I'm like, cool, let's do that. I want to be the altruistic player that always does like really good things. But I do kind of for educational purposes, I want to learn all the dark arts and stuff like that.
This is a cheeky little bit of fun.
Yeah, just a cheeky bit of fun. And so I went along with all this friend's plans to teach me all the dark arts. And then when I finally learned all three of them, and it's like, oh yeah, this student killed a man. And I'm like, yep, sell him out. Because I'm an altruist and I got what I wanted out of him anyway.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm really...
Off to Azkaban you go.
I'm really looking forward to playing more. Like, I don't know how long I will stick with it, I will be honest. Like, I think eventually I'll probably just be like, okay, kind of like, this is worn off. Because I've already said, I don't care about the story. I have no desire to finish the story. I'm just more playing it. It's kind of like an in-between game at the moment. Like, I finished Red Dead 2.
Don't you want to get...
What are you going to say?
But don't you want to have Gryffindor win the House Cup?
Honestly, I
don't they?
really couldn't care less. The way I'm playing my character is not really a Gryffindor at all. I'm gonna be honest. Like, the way I'm playing my character, I'm just like, you might as well just be in Slytherin at this point. So that's the way we're going. That's the way we're going. I'm just gonna... My headcanon is the Sorting Hat was just confused. Put me in the wrong house.
A literal headcanon.
Yeah, well, the Sorting Hat tried to put me in Hufflepuff, and I was like, I can do any of them but Hufflepuff, thank you very much. And then it's like, lame. All right, you can choose your own house. I'm like Gryffindor. Well, I looked at it, and it's like, Slytherin is like cunning and something like that, and it's like Ravenclaw prioritizes wit and intelligence. And I'm like, oh, I can do that, but I'm like, but also games to me are like a power fantasy where I can be the chivalrous and brave person like Gryffindor, where I can be like, yeah, let's fucking just take on any enemy I want and just do that. I'm like, so maybe if I was a real Harry Potter character, I reckon the Sorting Hat might put me in like Ravenclaw, but like I was like, hey, yeah, I can do the chivalrous and brave thing like it says for Gryffindor. I'm like, yeah, that'll be me for just for my character.
Yeah, and
Every
also
single...
it's not
yeah, and like also like yeah, it's just a video game, so who cares, right?
Yeah.
I think the
Every
only reason
single test I've ever done has put me in Slytherin. That is all.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think the Slytherin common room is pretty cool, so...
I have pride in my house. We do have a cool common room.
Exactly. I'll be honest, the Gryffindor common room it's very homey, but at the same time, it's also kind of lame.
The Hufflepuff
Yeah.
one looks so cozy.
Yeah, I've just got up to the part where I've actually done the beasts. Not beasts. It was like I had to go around with the elf from the Room of Requirement, who I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
And I had to
Beak.
collect all the beasts to put in the little thing in the Room of Requirement.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
the last thing I did. And so I fed a bunch of my little beasts that I got in there, and then I was like, cool, save game here.
And his name is Deke.
Yeah, that's it, Deke. Yeah, that's the last thing I did. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, I don't know how much longer I'll stick with it. I'll probably stick with it till I've like experienced kind of everything the game has to offer from the combat perspective, and then I'll probably move on after that, I reckon. We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up playing the whole thing. Who knows? It's just at this current point in time, I don't have any plans. Yeah, it's been good having you on again, and I hope we can get you back on again before the end, but we'll see how we go. Lord and I are trying to aim for 10 episodes this year, and it's been like 3 months, and we've done 2, so...
Have we done 2 or have we done 3?
Have we done 3?
I thought we were 1 for 1 per month so far.
Were we? I don't fucking know, honestly. I have no idea. But you know what? If we are, we are. That's fantastic. But yeah, we're trying to get 10 episodes out before the end of the year so we can end on episode number 40. But we'll see what happens, you know? But yeah, that does bring us to the end of the episode. So thanks everyone for watching and listening and all of that. And we'll be back. Next episode, we'll be doing The Mandalorian, I do believe.
Sweet.
That should be coming out on May the 4th, I reckon. What do you think, Lewin?
It's a yearly...
Yeah, except we didn't do
yearly
it last
tradition?
year, I don't think.
Did we not? Fuck.
No, I don't
It's
think
our
we did.
semi-yearly tradition.
Yeah. I still think the best episode of them we've done is the time we talked about Solo. That was
When
fun.
the fuck did we talk about Solo?
On Star Wars Day, a couple of years ago, we did a Solo retrospective.
Did we?
Yeah, we also talked about some Star Wars games as well. But yeah, we literally did an episode on Solo, a Star Wars story. Like, that was the
Oh,
topic
shit.
for the episode.
The turntables. I've finally forgotten what we've done.
Hey, I think that was a banger episode. We got to talk. I got to watch that movie again, and I had a good time. I had a good time watching that movie again and talking about it. So, we also talked about Star Wars games that episode. I don't know what we did. I think the year before we did Mandalorian. I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because we did season 1 of Mandalorian. But yeah, that'll be next episode. I'll catch up on Mandalorian season 3 and. We'll see how that goes. And then, yeah, from there, I don't really know what else is coming out from there. We'll probably talk about Resident Evil 4 as well, because even if I haven't played it by then, we can fucking talk about it. It's fine. But
That'd be good.
we might talk about that.
Jacob, you want to join in for that one?
I mean, we can, you know.
I wouldn't mind.
All right,
That'd be
well,
great.
then I guess we'll see you next episode then.
But be warned, I can talk about fucking Resident Evil 4 all live long day.
Yeah. But yeah, that does bring us to the end. So, Lewin, feel free to take us out.
Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will see you all in the next episode, and hopefully in a few episodes we'll have Jacob again. Everybody have a good morning, night, wherever you are. Goodbye.